And a good Monday afternoon to you. Welcome on into Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. We are powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganess St. Louis Acura. I'm Joe Roderick, joined alongside by Mike Claiborne. Claibs, one weekend of Cardinal baseball is in the books. How are you feeling before the 3-game series tonight against the Braves?
Well, I feel pretty good. The challenge is at this time of the year, you have so many day games, which I'm not opposed to them, and then you transition into the night games. So your schedule's a little off as far as what time you need to be at the ballpark and when you have meetings and stuff like that. But from a performance standpoint, I thought it was a pretty good weekend of baseball for the Cardinals. They obviously swung the bat well. They had timely pitching. I don't think we'll ever see a guy walk 7 hitters and not give up a run or a hit. That was really odd on Saturday. But, overall, I like the direction. And again, small sample size. But, you have to feel better about this than being 1-2 or 0-3.
Yeah,
and Toronto's a good team. That's the other thing you need to take into account. I think Toronto, you look at them offensively, they don't have an easy out in the order. Their pitching is okay. And they'll be in the hunt. I mean, they're in a tough division, but they'll be in the hunt.
Yeah, the Cardinals come out of the first weekend of the season, highest batting average in all of baseball, 373, which is really surprising that they have the highest, seen what the Rangers did this weekend as they took on the Phillies. So the Cardinals, better batting average there. But I think the biggest thing coming out of this weekend, the Cardinals have the least amount of strikeouts in all of baseball. Only 19 strikeouts coming out of this weekend. So, new hitting coach. Is it a new approach? Is it what do you contribute that to?
I think it's a combination of a new approach, new hitting coach, maturity in players. And obviously at this time of the year, probably see a few more fastballs than what they might see in a month or so. But overall, it's a good step. It's a good step in the right direction. It's something to build on. But I'm going to tip my cap to what Turner Ward and Brandon Allen have done from the offseason up until yesterday, with a little bit of a different approach. And like I said, some of the guys are maturing. And I start with Nolan Gorman, who I've said to you on countless occasions, the most improved player from last spring training through this spring training.
Yeah. He showed that yesterday. 2 home runs in the game yesterday. The Cardinals came out swinging in that game yesterday. 2 home runs on the first 3 pitches of the game. I tell you what, I went into this year that you saw Brendan Donovan have a really good spring. If he's going to hit leadoff every game, man, it would not shock me if he hit 30 home runs this year.
Oh, 30's a lot.
I know it's a lot.
He's a contact guy.
Yeah.
But, he can easily hit 18 to 20, 22. And that's fine. I think that what's more important is obviously him getting on base because he doesn't strike out a lot. We noticed that last year. I'm anxious to see how teams try and pitch him after seeing him for a while. They were going away from him in the spring, and he was going the other way with it. So, he's an interesting guy. Now, he's not your prototypical leadoff guy because he doesn't steal a lot of bases. But I think overall, he's an interesting guy to have at that top spot, knowing you're going to have a runner on first in the first inning with Goldschmidt and perhaps Arenado having a chance to bat in that inning also. I think really the big issue or the challenge will be who's going to hit 2.
With Nootbaar getting hurt this weekend, I was really surprised to see Burleson put in that 2 spot outside of some of the other options that you have, if not just move everybody up, which we've seen Ollie do in the past, or put someone like a Tyler O'Neill or a Dylan Carlson. To put a guy like Burleson in there was pretty shocking to me this week.
Well, I didn't think it was shocking only because Burleson is not a strikeout guy either. He doesn't strike out as much. You put O'Neill in there or Carlson in the 2 spot, and now all of a sudden you're asking for trouble. I'm anxious to see, does Ollie go with a guy like Jordan Walker after he gets some more at bats? I mean, think about you're hitting in front of Paul Goldschmidt. All right. There's a runner on base. Now, here's the key. If Donovan was more of an adept base stealer, that means you're going to see more fastballs because of the fact pitcher doesn't want to get beat with a breaking ball with a guy stealing second. So there's a lot of different scenarios, and I think for Ali Marmol. And, I'll go back, Joe, to maybe back when Tony managed the team. I'm not sure if we've seen this much versatility as far as guys being able to move around and actually tinker with the order on a regular basis, where you look for the matchups more than anything else. He's got a lot of weapons at his disposal early in the season.
3 games into the year, you see the lineup that the Cardinals have put out there. We talked about the numbers they've put up there. Where would you rank this lineup compared to ones that you've seen over the last 20, 25 years?
That's a good question. I'll say it this way. They might be close to being the MV3 lineups that we saw with Edmonds and that bunch, in 2004 and 2005. That could be an interesting lineup. I mean, think about it. If you get a legitimate 2-hitter to go along with Goldschmidt or Arenado and give me Contreras on one of his good offensive years, that's a pretty good, solid middle of the order. And then after that, we don't know what O'Neill's going to do. We don't know who the other outfielder is going to be. But those 2 guys are going to have a chance to really put up some numbers as well. And then Tommy Edmonds is going to hit 9th. So that means if he gets on, that leadoff guy, Brendan Donovan, is going to have a chance to have some big RBIs in 2023.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me, back in that MV3 era that you talk about. I mean, think about the lineups when they had Edgar Renteria in that lineup, batting 8th in the lineup. Yeah. I mean, that was how deep they were back then. And you have Jordan Walker when Contreras was in the lineup. I mean, you had Walker hitting 8th opening day, and already seeing the maturity of him at the plate, and seeing that opening weekend wasn't too big for him.
No, it wasn't. I thought he handled himself well. Still trying to figure out the big league pitching, making contact. One of the things, he doesn't swing at a lot of balls. He's a guy who seems like he's been very disciplined in his hitting approach, and it's something that I think he can be able to carry, where if it's around the plate and it's something in his zone, he's going to swing. If it's not, then you punch me out on a good pitch that caught a corner or had late action to it. Hey, you know what? Every now and then, the pitcher's going to win some of those battles too.
Let's talk about opening weekend around all of baseball. Jeff Passan tweeted out earlier today the numbers from the first 4 days of the Major League Baseball season last year compared to this year. And this has a lot to do with some of the rule changes that we have seen put into place. Last year at this time, 49 games have been played. So far, we have 50 games played. So there you go. That's, I mean, right there, it's as even as it can be. Time of game last year through 50 games, an average of 3 hours and 9 minutes a game through the first 50 games of the year. Claibs, have you seen the numbers yet for what the average of game time is?
I know, was it Thursday? There was only 3 games that were over 3 hours, and we were one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, around the league, man, these numbers are like 2.5.
2 hours and 38 minutes is the average time of game right now.
And we can work on that. We can get that thing down to 2:30. I'm all about pace, man. And, the thing is, a lot of guys have settled in and accepted it, and that's good. So we can move on to other things. As long as the umpires remain, consistent, I think this is going to be a great rule for the game, something that we definitely needed. I don't really think the quality of play has suffered.
I don't think so. I mean, here's some other things. So batting averages are up 15 points from 230 to 245 from last year. Stolen bases, Claibs. How about this? Through 50 games last year, there were 29 stolen bases in all of baseball. This opening weekend, 70 stolen bases.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's impressive.
And here's the thing too. Last year, 29 for 43, so 67% success rate. 70 for 84 this year, an 83% success rate on stealing bases.
So what does that say? That pitchers aren't comfortable enough with their move to first. B, guys are more daring because they can only be thrown over to twice. Or C, there's a lot of catchers who just can't throw. Or the fact that the pitchers aren't keeping them close. I mean, it's a combination of things, in my opinion.
So I was in the crowd Thursday and Sunday for the Cardinal games. And I will tell you from a fan experience, everyone there is aware of, okay, there's the pitch clock. Okay, where can I see the pitch clock? Looking around Busch to see where it is. the big thing that I have noticed when a pitcher throws over, you all of a sudden get this, ooh, okay, like people kind of moving up in their
you get to
seats.
the edge of the seat. You're right.
Yeah, that's what I have noticed in the first two games is that fans that are aware of the rules, or they'll throw over and all of a sudden you'll hear somebody in the crowd be like, hey, hey, you can only do that twice. And people are like, wait, what? Like people are learning the new rules and people are suddenly getting engaged with that part of it. It's like, okay, are we going to see a stolen base here? So the excitement in the stadium after a pickoff attempt, it's something that you didn't expect to happen. It's one of those things that now that you're like, okay, like let's see what happens here on this next pitch. So it's getting fans involved.
No, I agree. It's been good for the game. And I think this is something that we're going to have to continue to work on. Base stealers are going to be a little bit more bolder, and catchers and pitchers are going to have to figure something out here. Because, when you get a guy on second, that's a game changer of an inning. You got a runner in scoring position. So I'm anxious to see when guys start stealing third because both pitchers don't have a good move to second.
Right.
And I've also seen pitchers throw over when they were trying to push their own reset clock about how they wanted to pitch the batter. So it has its pluses. I still think people are tinkering with where it lies with regard to the game plan and approach. But, overall, I think that, too, has been good for the game.
So Cardinals have a 3-game series coming up against the Braves. We talked about it last week. The Cardinals came into the season. MLB.com ranked their lineup number 4 in all of baseball. They had the Blue Jays ranked at number 3 and the Braves ranked at number 5. So offensively, you should not see any kind of dip in production this week with the Braves in town.
Well, at least not while you're at home. That Milwaukee situation might be a little different when the Cardinals go on the road. And one of the things about the offense we didn't touch on, you notice how many balls are going up the middle?
Yeah.
That's where you can make a living at now. And I just really feel like this has opened up the game even more, and we're still getting these games under a reasonable period of time.
Yeah, it's so. By the way, we have tickets to give away for the game tonight. I tweeted it out earlier. We're going to be doing this all season long. So tweeted it out, like and retweet when you see those. And we are going to give away the tickets today to Tim Altapeter on Twitter. So I will be reaching out to him here very soon and get those tickets to him for today's game, a 6:45 start time. Claibs,
another thing I like, the 6:45 start.
They've been doing that a few years now. Yeah, it's been real nice. Claibs, let's take we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we have a lot more to talk about. Final Four, some big entertainment news in the world of UFC and WWE, and a whole lot more right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura.
Is that what I think it is?
Yep. That's the bat in the stone. Been around for like 25 years. And nobody in 25 years has ever pulled.
Back here, Lunch with Claibs and Joe here on claibsonline.com. Powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Munganast St. Louis Acura. I think we plan on being out at one of the Munganast next Monday for the show. Get in touch with Jamie Burkhart and figure out which one he wants us at next week. If we go out to the Alton location, Claibs, you can get yourself one of those Munganast Burkhart pullovers that
Looking
Jamie
forward
gave me.
to it.
Yeah, so.
And maybe swing by Fast Eddie's while I'm over there as well. So that may be my day over in Alton, Illinois next week.
So you're saying is you want me to text Jamie and tell him that we're going to be in Alton next Monday?
I'm available to go wherever Jamie likes.
All right, we will we'll make that work. Hey, tonight we have championship basketball. UConn, San Diego State University. It is the championship of the men's side of things down in Houston. Claibs, for some of us that got UConn at plus 1,600 back 4 weeks ago, it's could be a very good night as they are the heavily favored team in this in tonight's game.
I'm always concerned about teams that heavily favored going into a game like this. I mean,
Minus
we've seen,
325.
yeah. I mean, it's a lot. It's a very tempting wager. But San Diego State didn't get here by mistake. I mean, they play some really good basketball. But it'll be fun to watch. It'll be fun to watch. I don't have a dog in the fight. I did win my other pool. I don't know if I told you. The guy called me on Tuesday and congratulated me on winning the pool because I guess everybody else is knocked out. So I ended up with the points on it. So it was a good day. But I would imagine, obviously UConn was a team that was on some people's radar. But I would be interested to know how many people actually had UConn going this far.
I mean, when you looked at what they did in the regular season, there was no reason to.
Right. And let's face it, many people didn't even know San Diego State had a basketball team because they're never mentioned. I mean, the only thing they had going for them was when Tony Gwynn played for them.
The Kawhi's from there. Kawhi Leonard's from there.
They weren't very good when he was there, though.
And he's still, I mean, he was good.
He really didn't blossom until he got to the league.
Right.
He was a guy who had a lot of athletic tools, but he really didn't get a serious look until he got to the league and San Antonio took him. And he obviously, the rest is history. He's been a really good player when he's healthy or when he wants to play. But this is not a school with great heritage when it comes to basketball.
You see, and then I feel on top of that too, I feel like you had when Steve Fisher being the head coach there for so long kind of put them a little bit, at least it was a name. It was a guy that had been to the Final Four at a previous stop. I feel like they're not a blue blood of college basketball, but I think to say that nobody knew they had a team, I mean.
All right, so let me run it by you this way. How many people you think had them going this far?
Oh, no. I mean, they're a 5 seed? So, no, nobody had them going this far.
It's not like 5 seeds haven't been successful. Yeah, I mean, that's my point.
What, are they the second 5 seed to make it to the championship game?
But here's the thing. In this year, because of the portal and everything else was going haywire with basketball, and the commission, I talked about this at the beginning, we thought anywhere from 20 to 25 teams could win this thing. Mm-hmm. And now here we are. And you look back at the other 2 teams that were in the Final Four. I mean, it was anybody's tournament, and it still is. I just think that's a big number for San Diego State. I mean, for UConn, but you never know. I mean, somebody gets hot, and all of a sudden somebody gets in foul trouble early, and you got to play a different game. I always go back to when Villanova played Georgetown. They was like the Christians versus the Lions, and Georgetown was loaded. A better team than what we've seen in Connecticut, and they got beat by a Villanova team that barely got in. So these things may take place. It'll be entertaining. I'm looking forward to seeing as much of it as I can.
Tonight we also get Jim Nantz on the call for the final time, his last Final Four. You're rolling your eyes. I was just
here's the thing. I think Jim Nantz is a very solid broadcaster. Okay, everything he does has got some. He's very prepared, or they give him a lot of stuff to read. I don't know, but I think in my opinion, the staged endings, where this is a guy who sounds like he writes this down before he says it.
I think he does.
Well, I think it's too staged for me.
That's his bit. That's been.
Well, you're right. It is his bit. So I'll be interested to see. Have they announced who his replacement is going to be?
I don't think I've heard anything yet on that. Because I mean, is he just ending? Oh, it's
he's just doing
his replacement. Ian Eagle.
Ian Eagle. He's done a nice job. Ian Eagle's done a very nice job.
Yeah. So he's just done with basketball. I mean, he's going to keep doing NFL. He's going to keep doing the Masters. Yeah. Which, by the way, we'll get to that. We'll get to the Masters at the end. But I want to talk women's college basketball. Last week, we talked about Caitlin Clark and what she had done leading the team to the Final Four. She led her team to the championship game. They lost to LSU, got blown out by LSU in the game. And you've seen a lot of people on social media commenting on the confrontation, the back and forth between Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and the way that both of them have kind of celebrated and maybe in the two ways that the two women have been described, doing similar things but described very different ways by people online.
Yeah, I mean, it's a crock is what it is. And I was listening to Angel Reese talk about it yesterday, and she's right. Person of color does that, or it's classless. It's this, it's that. Hey, when Caitlin Clark did it, everybody thought, oh, that's really cool. That's funny. So you know what? You can color it any way you want. This is about black versus white versus black. And those people have this selective retention about how they view people and view athletes. And so I'm glad Angel Reese said what she said, because it's total BS. Total BS.
Yeah, if you're going to celebrate Caitlin Clark for as outgoing as she was yesterday, then you let Angel Reese do whatever the hell she wants when she's winning a championship.
Exactly.
And
But here's the other thing, though. I think if these were two teams, let's say it's the UConn and San Diego State, and this happens tonight, I don't think many people say a lot about it, but I think we kind of are enamored with cat fights. And you think about all the things that have gone on in women's college basketball this year with some of the other confrontations, some of the coaches, speaking their mind. This is everyday business for men. But for women, we kind of get a kick out of that stuff. And I think we need to just come to grips that the women have caught up to the men with regard to their skill set and certainly their passion. I mean, these teams that play in the NCAA tournament, especially in the Final Four, they're legit. It's not like they have one player who can do something. I mean, obviously Iowa was riding on Caitlin Clark, but that's a good team. There's a reason why they got to the Final Four, because they played good defense until yesterday, and they found ways to get her shots. And then when she wasn't getting shots, she was putting the ball in other people's hands. So, this isn't like the old days where you had Lucia Harris or you had Cheryl Miller carrying the load. There are more competent players playing women college basketball than ever before.
Claibs, let's take another break. When we come back, we will get into some of the big news from earlier today, a $21 billion merger, and we'll talk about that when we come back here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, and driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura.
There's always been a bright side to living in downstate Illinois. Ameren, Illinois is making it even brighter with a little help from the sun. Right now, we're building a next-generation solar facility to bring you cleaner energy for generations to come. It's good for the environment, your neighborhood, and everyone living in downstate Illinois. That's brighter thinking. That's energy at work. Learn how you can participate in solar programs at amerenillinois.com/renewables.
Claibs, this past weekend, WWE held at WrestleMania out in Los Angeles. But the big news came out earlier today for those that are fans of UFC or WWE. The two companies have now merged as WWE has been acquired by Endeavor, a company that's owned UFC, for $9 billion, making the two companies now after the merger worth over $21 billion, putting them up there, one of the most lucrative companies out there in the United States.
They got to be worth more than the National Hockey League, shouldn't they?
Overall, how much it's worth? Net worth of
I bet they're worth
NHL.
I bet that thing. Go ahead.
The net worth of the 32 franchises in the NHL is $32.4 billion.
Okay. All right.
Now with the new merger, they've already come out and said they're going to look at reworking some TV deals and see what they can what they can get done. So who knows what?
Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you this: what about the competitors? Are they going to see an increase? Because you know this sport as well as anyone, or with activity. A lot of these, there's only a handful of people who actually make a lot of money. I mean, the shelf lives of these athletes is a very short one. So are they going to see the benefits of this merger?
You know what, though? I feel WWE, I feel like professional wrestlers, the shelf life, once you get to that level, is a lot longer. There are guys wrestling now in their 40s, top guys who are in their 40s now wrestling, where before never would have heard of that. You never would have heard of guys in their 40s making it this long and being at this high of a level. And you're getting that now because, unlike wrestlers from the 80s and maybe the 90s, these guys aren't out doing drugs. They're not.
Yeah.
They're they're actually paying attention to what they're putting in their bodies and looking at that. And they're not going out to the hotel bars drinking every single night. A lot of these guys don't drink at all anymore. They are trying to preserve their careers as long as possible and continue doing this as long as possible, to where there are so many of these guys that are making 7 figures a year now, compared to back in the day where it'd be, 1 or 2 guys would be making that. Now you have guys that are hardly ever on TV, but they've been around for so long, they're making $1 million a year doing this.
Good for them.
Yeah, and they're not having to put their body on the line 300 nights a year anymore either. So I think the shelf life is a little bit longer. What I wonder now is, you get these guys in UFC who become such big stars in UFC, and their personalities are what draw you to them. How many of those guys try to make the jump now over to WWE and maybe save their bodies a little more instead of getting actually kicked in the face? They might take a little bit less of a shot, but still get the notoriety, get the fame, get the screen time.
Well, it's something we all be paying attention to for sure. When you have that kind of dough moving around like that, and let's face it, Ari Emanuel is a pretty smart guy. I mean, he's been in the middle of a lot of very successful projects. So for him to have his fingerprints on this, I think it should tell you that there's going to be a legitimate commitment, and they'll grow it. They'll grow it beyond anything they ever envisioned.
Yeah, there will be a new board of directors for this new company, 11 people, 5 of them from WWE, 6 from Endeavor. Vince McMahon will stay on as the executive chairman of the board for this deal. So but he has a mustache now too. I don't know if you've seen the videos or the pictures of him today. He went away, and he's got a mustache now, and looks very, very odd to see that.
You mean more odd?
I mean, I feel like maybe he's dyed the hair back, so he doesn't look as old as he used to about 2 years ago when he was on TV. So it's a different look for him.
Okay.
Overall, yeah. So
bully for him.
Yeah. George Kittle got involved in WrestleMania this weekend, the tight end for the San Francisco
49ers.
Yeah. So he got involved.
That's always been
in a match.
Though. I mean, you can go back to the 50s. There were always NFL players getting involved in wrestling in the off season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, they were doing it because it was a second job. But, you go back to the 50s, and you had Big Daddy Lipscomb. You had in the 60s Ernie the Cat Ladd. I mean, there were a number of guys who played in the NFL that were doing this. So the new generation of guys, and, that's fine. Good for them.
Claims this past weekend, or I guess yesterday, the Blues lost to the Boston Bruins, one of the best teams I think that we've ever seen in NHL regular season history. Lost to them in a really good game. I mean, down 3-0, score a goal with 10 seconds left in the second period, and then go on to tie it in the third before eventually losing in a shootout. So the Blues, they gave it their all yesterday against the best team in the NHL, but in doing so, in that loss yesterday, were eliminated from playoff contention for this year. I think when you look at this team, they're not going to tank. They're not going to get all the way down and get that number 1 pick in the draft, or they're not going to have the best odds to get that number 1 pick in the draft. What you've seen, though, is Doug Armstrong put together a team while selling and getting back draft picks and selling away some of your top players. He's put together a pretty exciting team to give fans something to look forward to next season.
Yeah, they're not as far away from a rebuild as some would think. They need a couple of pieces to go along with what they have. I think they got to figure out what to do with their goaltending and also their defense. Those are 2 areas that are glaring as far as have to be improved for next year. And they got to figure out what to do with Jordan Kyrou. I mean, the guy's going to score 40 goals, but he's going to be a minus 35.
Yeah.
And, obviously he has not worn himself well with a number of his teammates. And I would include the coach in that as well. So he's got to have to figure some things out if he wants to be a real force on this hockey team. And granted, 40 goal scorers, there's no tree in the backyard that you can pull one off of. But with all the baggage that comes with it, you have to wonder. So we'll see what happens. But you know what? They're already working on next year. I'm excited for when they go into the draft. They'll have some real options at stake. and we'll see what happens. But I think also, Joe, that there are a lot of guys playing for jobs next year. And you mentioned something about effort. They're not going to roll over. There's a good reason why they shouldn't roll over, because if they do, they won't be here.
Yeah. Right now, Claibs, something to watch as the NHL season winds down. I think the Blues have, 3 home games left on the season, and less than and maybe 5 or 6 overall. Connor McDavid right now has 146 points on the year. He very well could end up. This could be one of the top 15 best seasons that we've ever seen in NHL history as far as points go in a year. 146 right now. Looking at number 15 on the list of all time is Phil Esposito at 152.
I remember that one well. 76 goals and 76 assists.
Yeah. So with the way the NHL is right now, when you look at the years of guys, the last time a guy scored 140 points in a year, Claibs 92, 93.
And I really thought once they took out the red line and did made a little bit more of an open game, I thought somebody would challenge Gretzky. I thought somebody would challenge Hull with the goals. But it just hasn't happened. And I don't know why. Now McDavid has all the tools. He's playing with a really good guy in Draisaitl and some other good players they've thrown out there with him. But for some reason, they just haven't been able to crack it. And this is a much easier game to play than when Gretzky and Hull were playing. Much easier. So I don't know what the missing point is here. I just don't know where they missed. But McDavid is worth watching. I believe he's on tomorrow night against the Kings on ESPN. So,
yep.
And the Kings are a pretty good hockey club right now. So this is going to be a very good, interesting offseason, because they're going to blow that thing up in Calgary. I don't know how Tortorella stays for another year. He's pissed everybody off in Philadelphia. You have some other teams that have underachieved. I look at that Florida Panther bunch. They made that huge trade for Tkachuk, and they're going to miss the playoffs. And so is Ottawa, and so is Calgary. So there's a lot of teams that probably have to do some soul searching on what direction they go for next season. So it's going to be a very stay tuned sort of off season.
5 games left for the Oilers this season, by the way. So McDavid sits at 146 with 5 games left to play. Ahead of him, Mike Bossy at 147, Pat LaFontaine at 148, Gretzky and Jagr at 149, Bernie Nichols at 150.
Now, here's the thing. All those names you just mentioned played over 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay. And it is, again, it should tell you how hard it is for what these players are trying to do today. You would think with the skill set, the rule changes, not as much fighting, you would have thought somebody would have been able to crack that list, but it's tough, man.
The last time a guy scored 150 points in a season was Mario Lemieux, 95-96.
Jeez.
That same year, Jagr had 149.
Yeah. And they were racking them up then. And again, it was a much harder game to play.
Yeah.
Much harder. And you see these guys still can't crack it. It's a different player, though. So
it is. Yeah. What he's able to do is just impressive. Hey, Battlehawks won yesterday. St. Louis City SC lost their first game of the season. How many minutes of both of those games did you watch?
I didn't watch any of the soccer. We had it on in the booth, and I saw half a dozen plays for the Battlehawks. It's just not something I just have time for right now. I'm happy to hear they're doing well, but it's not something that I'm going to take a lot of extra time. Because if it's on Apple TV, like I was telling you beforehand, there's a good chance I may not ever get to a game because I work when they play.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to sit outside when it's in the 30s or 20 degrees. Like I've heard people go out and tell me about how cold it was. Well, you don't have to worry about me being out there.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. But I love the way, and let's tip our caps to the front offices of both those teams and how they put these rosters together where they can come out and compete. And as I've said to you before, with the exception of Saturday, St. Louis City has intrigued a lot of people because they score goals, and I think that's something that we here in this part of the world like to see is scoring. And I think the same could be said for the Battlehawks. You know, they got off to a slow start offensively, but now they seem like they've got themselves in a good groove. So scoring is what sells tickets, okay? As they say, scoring sells tickets, defense wins championships. Well, you know what? Let's see what happens. But I think it's fun for St. Louis to have two teams that they can feel good about in their direction.
Claibs, it should be a nice one for you guys tonight. It's April 3rd, and first pitch tonight, Claibs, is going to be 72 degrees.
Loving it. You know, hopefully we've dodged bad weather as far as the month of April, because we've had some months of April where it would be just a little too chilly for the kid. So we'll see what happens this week. We only got to get through Wednesday, and then we'll be on the road for a bit.
That's right. 6:45 start time. Pregame starts when on KMOX?
That's a great question. We haven't done enough. I haven't done enough of them to know what happens, man. I just do my job, and you know they run what I give them. So I'll look into that though. I would say, let's see, 6:45, a little after 6.
I'm looking quickly here.
6.
I'm looking very quick here to see if Matt Pauley maybe tweeted out what time pregame starts, and he has not yet. So that's that was my hope, was that maybe he posted whenever the pregame show was.
6:45 start.
It is, yes. So we will. Make sure to follow me on Twitter all season long at Joe Roderick. We're gonna be giving away tickets to games all season. Gave away a pair earlier on in the show today. So we got 77 more of these home games left to give away tickets for, Claibs, and we'll be doing it all season long right here on Claibs Online. New Rick Hummel coming up in just a bit as well. I'll get that new article posted whenever we are off the air here. Those Claibs always brought to you by Fast Eddie's of Bon Air.
Fast Eddie's Bon Air in Alton, Illinois. You got to be 21 or over to get in. And they got the peel and eat shrimp, the Fat Eddie burger, and also some other announcements coming forth here in the very near future, as there's going to be a little bit of an expansion with Fast Eddie's, and we'll be excited to tell you all about that. But great place to hang out, whether you want to go check out some games, or, you know, you see a lot of people go over there for lunch and hang out. And certainly the weekends, guys go play golf, and that's a good watering hole. Because the food's always good, the beer's always cold, and the service is always outstanding. So I would suggest, if you haven't been there, maybe now's the time you check it out. Fast Eddie's Bon Air, Alton, Illinois, right at the foot of the bridge.
He is Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. 6:45 Cardinal first pitch tonight. Here, Claibs on the pregame show, and then sprinkled
whatever
in
time
throughout.
that starts,
and then sprinkled in throughout. You still doing your 7th inning stat?
No, we don't have to do that. We moved it up in the show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you can hear
we
them
want
whenever.
to get the bettors involved a little earlier than the 7th inning.
You got to get them involved before they cross the river, Claibs. That's what it is. I got a spot in East St. Louis where I'm hitting my button on that when I'm heading over to games, because once you hit that bridge, everything just shuts off.
Not much longer though. Once they get it going in Missouri.
Last week they said it wasn't happening again.
Well,
they shit the bed on it again.
I don't even know where to start with our elected officials in the state.
DeWitts and the Hunt family need to get involved in that.
They are involved.
I know. They need to get more involved in that. That's big money for them.
We got a bunch of dummies involved in making these decisions, and that's who they are. That's what they are. Understanding that every state around this state is making money off of gambling. Okay.
Kentucky just made it legal today.
Yeah, I'm done with it.
Yeah, Kentucky, state number 37 now, where it's legal to bet on sports. So only 13 left, and Missouri is one of those 13 left on that list. Hey, he's Mike Claiborne. I'm Joe Roderick. We'll talk to you next time right here on Lunch with Claibs and Joe, powered by Ameren, Illinois, driven by Mungenast St. Louis Acura, right here on ClaibsOnline.com.
As one of St. Louis's fastest growing companies and largest private companies, St. Louis Acura is proud to serve you and remains committed to becoming better than ever for you. As new Acuras become more available every day, we are not backing down from selling 100% more quality pre-owned vehicles than ever before. We want customers that appreciate our friendly, outgoing team and our award-winning service, because at St. Louis Acura, we are better than ever for you.